with here. And it looks like Dave Williams is going to be on the play, playing Temple of Malady. This Abzan whip deck we've seen a lot of today. I think you're used to the numbers that we have. Looks like one of the players is on a mulligan.
Yeah, Dave went down to 6.
Dave is on 6 on the play. This Abzan whip deck, we're used to the wonky numbers that are in here. This is Jerry Thompson's list apparently, with 1 Eidolon Blossoms and 2 Reclamation Sages in the main deck, 2 Heroes Downfall, 2 Thoughtseize, and so I think that we're used to this deck by this point. Jonathan Kohler, by the way, his first creature on the board is a Hero of Iroas.
I think it's just going to meet... Oh, okay. Well, Dave actually doesn't have a 3rd land in his hand, and he needs to make sure that he gets to develop his board for the next couple turns.
And he's going to go for the Llanowar Wastes, which is going to follow up with another Sylvan Caryatid. So he is going to get himself quite a little bit of board presence and also put a creature or 2 into the graveyard with that Satyr Wayfinder. Jonathan Kohler, though, is going to get to have this Hero of Iroas and start the value train with his auras and some scrying, most likely.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Dave had a Hero's Downfall in his hand. He could have, taken his entire turn to Hero's Downfall here, but he decided to develop his board a lot more. The value of casting a Satyr Wayfinder there, finding a land to cast another Sylvan Caryatid, just proved to be too much. I mean, he gets to develop his board way past Jonathan's, and hopefully he can start playing multiple spells in a turn for him.
Yep, the fact that Jonathan was tapped out, though, and unable to protect the hero, means that it's possible that Dave could have, cut the legs out from Jonathan's plan there, but if Jonathan had another follow-up creature, like a favorite Hoplite, it certainly wasn't going to be the start that he wanted. Jonathan is going to begin things by paying a blue mana, most likely for, I would imagine, Ordeal of Thassa, which there it is. Costs 1 less because he has the Hero of Iroas in play. The Heroic trigger is going to put 1/+1/+1 counter on the hero. See if Jonathan wants to trigger another heroic spell before we enter combat. He plays Mana Confluence and Aqueous Form, triggering heroic yet again. Aqueous Form. 1 blue mana aura that makes the creature unblockable, and whenever the creature attacks, you may scry. He's going to stack the triggers in the order that he so chooses, most likely with the... well, it looks like he's going to choose to scry first,
right,
putting a card on the bottom, and then drawing 2 cards.
Yeah, that's the order you probably should put it in most of the time.
Yep, most of the time, allowing you to preordain rather than Serum Visions.
Right.
A little bit different because you're drawing 2 instead of 1, but you see my point there. And so Dave already down to 16 here, I think. Jonathan Kohler at 19, he had to take damage off of the Mana Confluence, and here's a Thoughtseize from Dave Williams, revealing another Hero of Iroas. Looks like a Stubborn Denial, 2 copies of Seeker of the Way, and a Flooded Strand. So it's a good thing that he didn't waste his turn using the Hero's Downfall, because Jonathan is flush with creatures. Stubborn Denial, by the way, we've seen in a lot of the Temur Monsters decks today. It is a ferocious spell, which means that if you have a creature with power 4 or greater, it has a different effect than if you don't have a creature with power 4 or greater. The heroic deck is pretty good at getting a creature with power 4 or more, as it currently has on the board. The Hero of Iroa is currently a 4/4, and also a lot of creatures. Oh, it's a 5/5 actually, currently, and a lot of creatures still in his hand. So Dave is going to probably take this Stubborn Denial here, I would imagine. What do you think?
Absolutely. He's going to take the Stubborn Denial to make sure that Hero of Iroas. Did we get the card wrong?
That's possible. Could be another aura.
I would think he would take a Stubborn Denial there if Jonathan had it, to make sure that his future removal spells were just clear to start killing off these creatures.
Now, he did see that Jonathan does not have God's Willing, and so he's going to be able to take down the 5/5 currently in play with the Hero's Downfall that he has in hand. So Dave Williams is able to clear all of the heroic business away from Jonathan Kohler's side of the board. Jonathan Kohler is going to be able to rebuild, though, so maybe that's what Dave was trying to do. He just wanted to force Jonathan to throw out a couple of 2/2s without too much value just yet. So in comes a Seeker of the Way and a 4th land for Jonathan Kohler. Jonathan, looking at the myriad of options he has in hand, he has a Siege Rhino as well as another copy of Hero's Downfall.
Yeah, I think we're just going to get the Rhino in play here and start getting the beats on.
Dave, the game plan for Abzan Whip is that you not only have to answer all of the threats that Jonathan plays, but you should also be presenting a little bit of a block, because eventually Jonathan's going to find all the pieces that he needs, and so you want to get in while the getting's good, while Jonathan only has one of the 2 pieces that he needs, or 2 of the 3 pieces. He has lands, and he has creatures. He doesn't yet have enough targeted spells to really make him super monstrous. So we'll see how Jonathan is able to proceed from here.
Yeah, Jonathan needs a couple of good top decks off the top of his deck here to get back in this game. Mostly he needs a couple of protection spells.
Yeah, God's Willing, Feet of Resistance being the 2 better ones.
Some more deals wouldn't be bad in a certain order. Draw a few more cards, get our guys a little bit bigger. The fact that he already has his Aqueous form out of his deck is actually a pretty big deal. It's one of the better cards he has against Dave. He's going to have to go straight swap now to make sure that his guy's unblockable. I'm using quotations here.
So we're going to start things off with Favorite Hoplite. And this is a heroic creature that John can target while also still triggering the prowess on Seeker of the Way. But instead he's just going to flood the board with more creatures, and Dave Williams is quite alright with that, as long as Jonathan's creatures aren't being targeted. Dave is in the catbird seat, certainly. Still has a copy, I believe, of an elimination spell in his hand. I believe he has another Hero's Downfall in there.
And it's good for Dave that Jonathan's creatures stay at the 2/2 size that they are right now, because if he can find a turn to cast Doomwake Giant plus another enchantment, he can actually Wrath Jonathan out of nowhere.
Absolutely. He currently has 6 mana available, no Font of Fertility in Dave's deck to trigger the 2nd constellation, unfortunately for him, but there's the 7th mana, and in comes Siege Rhino, and he's going to amass a triple block on that Siege Rhino. Look at that.
Yeah, I think this is a bait on Dave. He actually wants him to use a removal spell here. I don't think Jonathan is just going to move into getting, 3 for 1 here.
So it looks like he's going to take out 2 of the Seeker of the Ways. And there is the Hornet Queen. The Queen is here.
Yeah. This is the game Dave wanted to play.
Yeah, definitely. Get to the longer game, get to 7 mana, throw out the Death Touch Flyers. Not only is it 5 power in the air, which is a pretty steady clock, but it's also quite the roadblock for Jonathan Kohler if he's unable to find a protection spell.
Absolutely. Jonathan's drawing pretty thin from here on out. He's going to need a very good successive cards here off the top of his deck, plus what he has in his hand. They're going to need to all be very big impactful spells.
Absolutely, and Stratus Walk isn't even good enough. I think that's the card that Jonathan drew for the turn. Just giving it flying flies right into the Hornets. So Dave Williams is able to take game 1 with Abzan Whip over Blue-White Heroic in the hands of Jonathan Kohler. Both of these players are 4-1. The winner is going to move on to top 8. The loser is going to have to fall to the wayside, probably only finish in the top 16 of this event. Looking at the sideboards, looks like Dave Williams has the similar sideboard that we've discussed earlier, 3 copies of Drown in Sorrow. Pretty good in certain situations. I'm not sure that it's the greatest in the world, though.
Right.
You probably still want to bring it in.
You want to bring in some number of them on the play. As I said earlier, I think that on the draw, they're kind of a liability, but in that game, they would have been good, obviously.
Thoughtseize, Silence the Believers, Bile Blight, Hero's Downfall, all good options as well
Absolutely.
as Glare of Heresy might be a consideration, and Reclamation Sage as well.
Glare of Heresy is coming in for sure. It's one of the better cards that he has.
It's able to take out pretty much every creature for 2 mana, so I think that you'll see some of the longer game cards like Eidolon of Blossoms get cut in favor of some of the cheaper elimination spells like Bile Blight and Glare of Heresy.
Right, and on Jonathan's side, you're going to see stuff like Triton Tactic come in, a Glare of Heresy maybe of his own, a Race of his own, and a Johnny's Presence, and maybe, just maybe, the card you were talking about last round.
That's right.
What's the card you were talking about?
Mortal Obstinacy.
I know how much you love it.
1 white mana, common. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and when it deals combat damage to an opponent, you may sacrifice Mortal Obstinacy to destroy target Courser of Kruphix, or Doomwake Giant, or Whip of Erebos.
That's generally what it's going to be killing, is a Courser of Kruphix, like early if they have it. He might also bring in a Treasure Cruise or 2 in this matchup, knowing that it's going to be a little grindy. Like, it would have been very good in that game. It just matters what he wants to take out, like how many cards he wants. As I said, this deck is drastically different on the play versus the draw, and playing against it on the play versus the draw is drastically different too.
Yeah, I think you're also going to see the Aqueous form come in here.
Absolutely.
And, the Stratus Walks aren't great. They're still fine. Most of the creatures don't fly. Only the Hornet Queen is really able to block anything with the Stratus Walk.
If Dave is casting a Hornet Queen and we're not winning the next turn, we're not winning this game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So.
And so we got some options, certainly, and we are certainly not dead, of course. Jonathan Kohler also has options in Erase, which I think is most likely to come in. Very similar reasons to Mortal Obstinacy, lots of targets.
Yeah, you can't let a whip sit on the board forever. It can actually race you. You can't let a Doomwing Giant sit on the board forever. He can create a turn where he gets to do it multiple times and maybe actually kill his creature. Now this is a true win and in for these players, so there's a lot riding on this match.
Absolutely, yeah. We have 6 players who have 12 points. We have one 15-pointer. We have one player who's 5-0, and that's Shane Merrill, who we saw on camera earlier. We have 2 13-pointers who are 4-0-1, Andrew Batinich and Lewis Gall, both of whom I believe are going to draw this round. So Shane and Andrew are playing this round. They're in. Lewis Gall and Ben Lundquist, Benny Beatdowns, probably drawing this round as well. They're at table 2.
I saw him walking around, so I assume that he drew in since he's playing blue-black control, and I doubt his round is over yet.
My roommate Eric Froelich and Jake Hill were paired this round. We had Jake walk over to us ahead of time. He was playing black-green Constellation. They're most likely drawing this round. And then there's 2 more slots left. This match here between Dave Williams and Jonathan Kohler. And then the last 12-pointer got paired down. That last 12-pointer is Josh Wittinen, who we saw on camera earlier, and he's up against Joey Valenti.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate. You got paired down, and sometimes your opponent might scoop to you in that situation, knowing that they can't make top 8 and you're automatically in. But no, his opponent came to game.
Well,
they're playing it out.
It's
there is a difference in prize. Obviously.
There's a difference in prize,
Obviously.
and the unwritten, the unspoken rule is not able to be spoken at the table.
Right.
So these players, Joey came to game. He's not here to draw.
Oh, I wasn't trying to say anything, that's wrong with his decision
at all. Of course,
at all.
absolutely. And so Josh Wittenen's going to have to battle to try to get that last slot in the top 8. But here we have Dave Williams and Jonathan Kohler locked in a tight match, as you see them both shuffling there. Both these players Vegas locals.
What do you think's going through their head right now?
Well,
it's definitely different on each side.
It's pretty different on each side. I think that this is just another day at the office for Dave.
I think Dave is very, very happy with the way this match is played so far, getting game 1. As I said earlier, I think he's a little bit of a dog in game 1, and that the blue-white deck definitely has a better matchup game 1 against most decks in the format. And that timely Thoughtseize, that timely Hero's Downfall got him through game 1. He has to be ecstatic that he broke serve.
Yep.
He was going first, but getting the game that's hardest for you. It's like when you're a blue-black control deck, you're playing against mono red, and you win game 1. I feel like I'm free-rolling for the rest of the match. I'm probably going to be able to win one of the other 2 games.
Yep. Meanwhile, Jonathan Kohler thinking he's got a long road ahead of him. He's had a long road behind him, too, so I don't think that he's too intimidated by his opponent this round. But
he's been playing through a lot of really, really good players this tournament. I think you mentioned that he played Shahar Shinhar round 1. You're playing against the 2-time defending world champion, guys on an absolute heater, in the last couple of weeks. And you easily 2-0 him in the first 10 minutes of the match.
Yeah.
Jonathan actually walked by us, gave me the thumbs up, and then had his hand shaking a little bit, like I was a little nervous, giving me that kind of thing. But I told the guy, take a deep breath. We're all human beings. Just play Magic. Just play your game. And he's going to be on the play this round. That's where he wants to be. This game. He's going to be on the play. Just get yourself a win here. Just have your good draw. Play well. Don't don't make any mistakes. Don't let anything get through. Just play your game. Get through. Let's get to the game 3.
Blue-White Heroic's a deck that can beat anything with a good draw, and it looks like I see a plains and an island on top for Jonathan Kohler, so he's got the lands to be able to get it done. That's part 1. Part 2 is the threat. Part 3 is the pump spells.
Profit.
We'll see if he has 4
part
question
4
marks,
is
and then profit.
Yeah.
So we have a Citadel for Dave Williams. John Kohler again with the Hero of Iross on turn 2. The Abzan Whip deck does not have a ton of 2-mana kill spells.
I do, however, see a Thoughtseize in Dave's hand, and depending if he has nothing else, he might have a Glare of Heresy in his hand also here. If he has a removal spell, I think he's just going to snap it off. If not, he might Thoughtseize here just to make sure he's clear for the rest of the game. As we said, you saw earlier, sometimes decks like this can just crumble to a Thoughtseize. Sometimes the Tower of Glass just comes tumbling down.
Yep. And you see a very familiar pose there from Dave, hand over his mouth, leaning over the table, deciding how he wants to proceed. And he has decided that Thoughtseize is the way we're going to go. And we're going to see Ordeal of Thassa, Glare of Heresy, Mortal Obstinacy.
We have a reader. I will say this.
Mortal Obstinacy.
I will say this. It was perfectly expected, but I have been very, very surprised at how well Dave... Not surprised.
Yeah.
Dave has played so well on camera in the matches that we've had him.
Yeah. And so, not another creature, though, and not a way to protect that hero. He does have a Defiant Strike to be able to dig deeper into his deck as the 4th card.
This hand, while I don't think it's a mulligan, is a little susceptible to a removal spell and a Thoughtseize, as you see. It's not, if he had just a second creature, it'd be really bad against Thoughtseize, but these are the kind of hands when you play a deck like blue-white, when you play a deck like mono-red, you didn't come to mulligan these hands.
Yeah.
This is what we signed up for.
So Dave is choosing between Mortal Obstinacy and Ordeal of Thassa, and he elects to take the Ordeal, leaving Jonathan with 2 white mana spells, one of which is a cantrip.
Yeah, Dave immediately snaps off an Utter End on top of his deck.
Yep.
Yep. I believe that was an Utter End. It was a little hard to see, but he's just going to leave it there knowing Jonathan has no protection spells.
Now, he does have a lot of them in his deck, though. He has Feet of Resistance as well as Ajani's Presence and God's Willing, so a lot of cards to dig deeper, and he is going to be able to dig a little bit deeper this turn with Defiant Strike, drawing an additional card.
I think it was a land, though. So
in for 3 or in for 4 damage, I should say.
Jonathan Kohler's draws this match have not been amazing, and Dave's have been pretty good versus Jonathan Kohler's draws, but as you said, Blue-White Heroic can win from anywhere, and you can have a really insane successful top decks in this deck.
Yep. So I think that if Jonathan Kohler does not have a protection spell here, either in the form of Johnny's Presence, Feet of Resistance, or God's Willing, it's going to be very difficult for him to win, because he's not only going to have to find another creature, but then another way to protect that creature.
Yeah, Dave immediately shuffles a Glare of Heresy to the front of his. Now, I would have liked to see Dave play a land here to play around the fact that maybe he draws Stubborn Denial here. Yep. I think it was only a 3-power creature, so it's still just in Force Spike mode. But
Yep.
maybe we could have played around it. But since we played a land untapped as well, it matters if he thinks he brought in Stubborn Denial or not. But I would have liked to have seen him play around it there.
Jonathan Kohler searching up a second island.
Got to thin that deck up a little bit.
I guess so.
Jonathan's looking for a creature here. He has to get one.
Yep. If he just passes the turn with no board presence, it is going to be a little bit awkward.
I think he actually drew Stubborn Denial here,
Oh
too.
my. That's what we call late decking.
Right. Flop lag.
Yep. Flop lag is quite good, yeah. Dave is going to use a fetch land to be able to play a Courser of Prufix, I do believe. And once Jonathan sees that the fetch land was activated before Courser, he can pretty much assume that Dave's hand is all business. Otherwise, Dave probably would have cashed in on the value of being able to gain the 1 life and not have the fetch land deal him quite so much damage.
Well, hooray for small victories. Dave didn't draw a 4th land or 4 sorts of mana, and Jonathan Kohler did draw a creature.
And there it is, Battle-Wise Hoplite.
Right.
Off the top, it is a blue-white 2/2 with the ability Heroic. Whenever you target it with a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on it and scry 1. So not only is it a creature, not only is it a heroic creature, but it also fixes his draws going forward if he's able to target it a couple of times.
Yeah, it was one of the better top decks for Jonathan Kohler there. If Dave bricked on the land again, which it looks like he might have, and he can't Utter End here, Jonathan's back in this game if we can draw a protection spell.
Yeah.
This is his window.
We do also still have Mortal Obstinacy in our hand, which is going to be able to take out this Courser.
This is the window for Jonathan, though. He needs to stick this turn. Well, maybe this was a land. Okay, and it's an untapped land. That's really bad for Jonathan. Does he? He does have. I think he has a Stubborn Denial in his hand. I'm not 100% on this. I don't like speculating on cards, but if he does, it's actually going to be pretty good here.
Yeah, because Dave knows that he would have played the Stubborn Denial the turn that he killed the hero of Iroas. So he's thinking, oh, well,
Right.
I don't think I need to play that. So, but instead, he's just going to keep developing his board. Second Courser of Prufix. Pretty good for Jonathan Kohler.
Yeah, getting to untap with a creature in play is where Jonathan needed to be to win this game.
I would imagine this is going to be Stratus Walk.
Yeah, it's time to assemble Voltron.
There's a Stratus Walk. We're going to trigger Heroic. And also give our creature flying.
Okay, we're going to scry first before our draw. So, get a little incremental value, and it looks like Murderous Cut.
After the scry.
Right, well, he has to let the Heroic trigger resolve. Well, he doesn't have to, but he's going to let the Heroic trigger resolve.
And there's a Stubborn Denial countering the Murderous Cut, so the Stratus Walk does resolve.
Yeah. Stubborn Denial is so good in this deck. Because like you force your opponent to have to like react to you and play your spells. They have to play into it most of the time.
And there's another land. It is a Plains, and it looks like we're going to have a Mortal Obstinacy. Triggering again, making a 5/5 Battle-Wise Hoplite that has flying. And when he attacks with it, by the way, we're going to get to destroy a Courser of Prufix for 1 mana. Better than Swords to Plowshares, better than Path to Exile. in very corner case situations.
Let's say you heard it here, You heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
That is a mouthful.
Mortal Obstinacy, better than Path to Exile. Kargon Dragonlord, better than Jace the Mind Sculptor.
Hey, you can quote me on that one.
I did quote you on that one.
Exactly.
Dave Williams is going to untap with only one Courser of Prufix, but a handful of business. And now, if you're Dave, and you're like, alright, he played the Stubborn Denial. There's only one card in his hand that I don't know.
Right.
But he's left up this one white mana. Do you hesitate with the other end?
No, you have to snap it off in this spot. You can't let him untap and draw another card. I might have done it in his upkeep, but I honestly don't even think that's even that big of a deal.
Yeah, that plays around Feet of Resistance if it happens to be in the card that Jonathan drew. So
right, that definitely is better to do it now and play around Feet of Resistance for sure. I forgot that it's actually a card. I think he plays one of those.
Jonathan does not find the.
Yeah, he plays one.
Jonathan does not find another creature though. He just has a couple of auras locked in his hand, and meanwhile Dave down to 9 at Jonathan Kohler's 17. Dave has a Whip of Erebos that he might choose to play here and try and get back into the game with some lifelink. He also has a Satyr Wayfinder. He is going to play the Whip of Erebos.
Yeah, we're going to start getting our life total up higher.
Cashing in on the 2 damage to you, I'll gain 2 life, Sorin's Thirst style.
He also knows there's a Glare of Heresy in Jonathan Kohler's hand, so playing the Rhino actually just allows Jonathan to start using spells, profitably out of his hand.
So Thoughtseize off the top from Dave Williams. And another untapped land, Urborg.
Yeah, that was a really good draw from Dave. He gets to scope out. He knows he's not going to hit a creature, but he's going to hit this God's Willing. It's very unfortunate for Jonathan Kohler that he drew God's Willing this late in the game and not a creature.
The order that he drew the spells were not ideal. We have God's Willing, Ordeal of Thassa, and a Plains, in addition to the Glare of Heresy. So Dave, most likely going to take the Glare here, you think?
I think I would just take the God's Willing, honestly. Yeah, if you just take the God's Willing and just make sure that your removal spells are clear for the rest of the game, you're not really worried about your Siege Rhino sticking.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it does exile it, you can't whip it, but honestly, who cares? It's going to drain Jonathan for 3 the turn you play it. It's going to get you a little bit of life buffer. We're gaining life, every course here as we see Satyr Wayfinder start to fill up the yard here with another Siege Rhino. So now you're going to see Siege Rhinos chained in. Jonathan Kohler is actually under the gun here. He's going to be dying within probably the next 2 turns.
Another Sandstep Citadel is the land that Dave Williams selected off of the Satyr Wayfinder that he cast there. Dave is quite content playing a relatively slow game here, and Jonathan Kohler still unable to find a creature on top of his library.
Yeah, he actually is just flooding out pretty hard, and he's going to scoop.
Yep, and so he extends the hand to Dave Williams, who is going to go to 5-1, almost certainly into the top 8.
That does lock him for top 8, and
Jonathan Kohler, unfortunately 4-2, falls in the last round to miss out on top 8.
Yeah, unfortunately.